Hi, this is Chastity with FLA Movement. I wanted to make a video about logging food because that is the number one habit that will enable you to learn the foundations easier and to ultimately have food freedom. Remember, logging food is simply a tool. It is something that you are going to utilize in order to change your body, performance, aesthetics, change your health. It is not something that you have to do for the rest of your life. Our goal inside the FLA movement is to get you to whatever island goal that you want to achieve. And then typically that's going to be either in a deficit or doing some work, doing some things, some tools in order to get you to that space. And then making sure you're eating at maintenance calories, eating quite a few calories, and then learning how to, intuitively eat and maintain whatever goal you wanted to achieve. Now, unless you set a new goal. Um, think of logging food just like you would think about your budget. If you don't look at your budget, then you definitely spend more than you have if you're living paycheck to paycheck, which is what most people are doing inside their body with macronutrients and calories. And so if you don't look at it, you're definitely going to go over. You're going to swipe that card sometime. You're going to eat something that probably didn't fit within the caloric amount that your body is able to burn. So when you start to do this process, try to be calm, try to remember that you're learning a new skill. And this is simply a tool that you'll use for the rest of your life to not have to find a new kind of magical diet plan. And this will always work. So let's talk about the specifics around logging food. One of the biggest things that people do to mess up when they log food is they don't log foods individually. So, for instance, if you're going to eat eggs, they don't actually put in all the different things to actually make their eggs. So, maybe you do an egg and you do 3 eggs, and this is going to look different on your phone, but I wanted to make sure I showed you guys how this would look. If you wanted to, you can actually log it on a computer as well. So you might put 3 eggs in. Well, what did you use? The one thing that people miss is all the little things that are used to cook the foods or all the things that are put on the foods like condiments. So what did you use to cook your eggs? Maybe you used oil, maybe you used butter, maybe you just used Pam. Remember when you even think about Pam, it says there's 0 macronutrients or calories in there, but I've never seen any oil that has 0 calories. And the Pam actually says about 1/8 of a spray. And I've never done less than one whole spray, or I don't even know how you would measure that. So remember when you're spraying your Pam, it actually does add fats in. Also, remember everything that you weigh or put in here, we want it to be weighed instead of measured. Always use that scale, even all of your oils, all of your butters, all of your condiments. So maybe you had 3 eggs, you had butter on it to make it, you put it in a pan with butter. Maybe you put cheese on it. And we want to make sure that you're weighing your cheese, or maybe you did just a piece of sliced cheese and you added that to the list. So now you go to lunch and you have a burger, but maybe that burger is not from a chain restaurant. It's a burger patty or like beef. And the beef is actually, and all meat is going to be different. So if you're eating someplace out, just remember the beef is probably going to be 80% or, a very high fat percentage. And you'll see like 80% beef is going to be 1 ounce is 71 calories. Now, if we do, 90%, then you'll see that Let's change this to 1 ounce cooked. One ounce cooked was 45 calories. So even the percentage of the beef can make a difference. But let's just say it was a 4 ounce patty. Any kind of meat, you can always ask wherever you are how big the patty is. Once you eat it at home, you'll be able to see what a normal, like 4 ounce patty of meat looks like. So then you add your cheese, then you add mayonnaise. And remember, if you can get your condiments on the side and also weigh your condiments, make sure you watch the video on how to weigh the condiments. So maybe you have light mayonnaise at home. You did 1 tablespoon of that. You actually weighed it, so it's the grams that are on the back of the package. Then maybe you had a slice of tomato. Tomato 1 slice. Then you have French fries. Now, French fries, you got to remember, every single kind of French fries are different. So maybe you had French fries and you had 3 ounces. Maybe you did it at home. Maybe you weighed them. But when you eat out, it's going to be a little bit different. So let's say you went to Chick-fil-A to have your meal. You'll want to put in wherever you are, if it's a chain, and select what you had. And remember, all of those sauces count. We want to make sure we count how much we eat of all the sauces. So maybe you had a Chick-fil-A sandwich. And when you do that, the Chick-fil-A sandwich, because it's put in as Chick-fil-A sandwich, and this one like says 1 sandwich with half a bun and pickles. Like a lot of times the chains will have their stuff broken down inside this app. So you want to make sure to put it in. Let's say for dinner you decided, and this is the one that gets people a lot, you had pizza. And let's say the pizza was at a chain restaurant, but it wasn't like, it was like a local chain. So that local chain might not be in this app. Then maybe it was like a Papa John's small pizza, because each slice of pizza is going to be different size depending on whether it's a small, whether it's a medium, or a large. So you want to think about what the pizza looks like. Is it more like, Papa John's? Is it more like Pizza Hut? Is it more like Domino's? Is it more like a thin crust from one of those? Is it more like a flatbread? Because they're going to have their macronutrients in here. And if you can relate it to something that's from a chain, it might be closer, not only in size, but in all the toppings that are on it. And then also the greasiness or the thickness of the pizza. And most of us eat at the same pizza places. So once you log this on a regular basis, you're not going to have to think about it again. You'll just log it as the same thing and then add more slices or less slices. So let's say you did a small the works, you had 2 slices. You can put 1 slice here and then you would select 2 slices here. One of the things people also forget to log, they forget to log the creamer in their coffee, the sugar in their coffee, the drinks that they drink, all of the, Cokes and things like that, condiments, the fats they use to cook stuff. So let's say you were out at a place and you were getting a filet. You cook that filet at home and it's a 4-ounce filet. Let's change this to 1 ounce, then change this to 4, so that way we have a 4-ounce filet. The difference between adding a filet at home and then going to a restaurant and adding a filet is they most likely marinated it in something fatty, so maybe mayonnaise or something like that to make it nice and yummy. And then they also probably put butter on top of it. So whenever I have a steak or even like the burger that we did earlier, you want to add whatever it is they use to marinate the meat. Um, so most likely they put a tablespoon of butter on top when they actually cooked the meat, and then most likely they probably marinated it in something like mayonnaise to make it be really yummy. Um, so regular mayonnaise, 1 tablespoon, we'll add that. And then back up here, like where our burger is. We didn't add in like what if this was made at home, you know what you put on your burger or what if you marinated it or if it's just the steak. But then out in restaurants, that's why if you eat out all the time, you want to make sure that you add those fats in. We'd need to add, a tab of butter or something like that. So that way we get that extra calories from um, the fat that they cook it in and the fat that they marinate it in. So again, one of the things that's really hard for people is hitting macros. So let's do a couple little examples of how to hit macros. I'm going to take some of these things out so that we can actually utilize the macros that are in here. These are not my macros, they were just in here. Um, so with this one, let's see. I'm way over because my totals are like way far down. So we'll take everything out of here real quick. And then I'll show you how to like play a little food Tetris game. One of the easiest ways at the end of the night to make sure you hit your numbers is to plan your day ahead of time. So have like the same breakfast, snack, lunch, and then maybe have something different for dinner each night, but you log your food before you eat so that way you know if you're going over because going over is typically the biggest problem. So if we look at this, and most likely we wouldn't just have butter in there. So if we look at this, most likely, maybe this is kind of the range that you might have when you're left at dinner and you have 48 grams of carbs remaining, 6 grams of fat, and 76 grams of protein. This is one of those times where having a very high amount of protein is going to be harder to meet. So you want to spread your protein out throughout the day and get, 25 to 30 gram at each meal. And if your protein amounts are higher, then take whatever your protein number is and divide it by how many meals or snacks you're going to have that day. And then that's your target number for what you want to eat at each meal and snack each day, because protein typically is the hardest thing. If you come to the end of the day and you have all protein, very little fat. Options. You want to make a list or, utilize the foundations for the list. Lean proteins versus fattier proteins. So lean proteins are going to be your really lean ground turkey, lean beef even. Sometimes beef is going to be leaner than turkey depending on the percentage. Egg whites in a carton are great to have around. Protein shakes. They've First Form has a great beef jerky that has 20 grams of protein and only about 3 grams of carbs. Jerky sometimes has a lot of carbs in it, but those are some examples if you have tons of protein, not very much fat. So what you would want to do is put in the amount of protein that you're eating. And most likely, if you end up with a lot of protein, you're going to want to maybe eat about 40 grams, 40 something grams of protein at dinner, then have a snack afterwards. Um, Maybe a protein shake, and then maybe some yogurt and granola or something, depending on what other macronutrients, fat, and carbs you have. Um, that's another one. Really lean, low fat yogurt can give you quite a bit of protein as well. Um, and just negligible. If you have low amounts of protein, then you would just eat less of that. You can always do a fourth of a protein shake or a half a protein shake or just one egg white if you have 5 grams of protein left. Now, if you have protein remaining and you have a lot of fats, you can obviously for dinner marinate your protein. If you only have lean proteins, you can put butter on it or oils. You can put sauces on it. You can utilize the whole egg. You can eat fattier meats like steak and pork and things like that. You could eat some seafood and put a lot of butter on it. Seafood like fish and shrimp and stuff usually is really great with a lot of butter. So when you have a lot of protein left, make sure you look at your fat so you know what kind of protein to pick. It's usually the hardest thing. Then we go to our carbs. When you're trying to play the food Tetris game to get your carbs in, you want to have a list of simple carbs and also have those around the house. So white rice, cream of rice, grits, oatmeal, straight sugar if you're drinking like some tea before bed. Um, they do have powdered carbs you can use if you're doing a workout late at night and you know you need some extra carbs before bed. You could do a protein carb shake, candies, fruits. Those are great to have, and it's really good to have fruits that are like grapes or cherries because you can eat 1 to 2 if you have just a few carbs remaining. Um, in the event that you have fats and carbs remaining, a great snack at night would be, I mean, to be honest, it's most of your processed foods, but a popcorn has, some fiber in there. You also can eat, some oatmeal and put some butter in it. You could eat some cream of rice and put butter in it. You can eat some vegetables and put some olive oil on it. You could do a salad without protein if you didn't have any protein left, and you could do just a salad. And, maybe put um, some salsa on it if you didn't have a lot of fats left instead of dressing. If you had a lot of fats left, you could do, a bunch of vegetables, and you're going to have protein in the vegetables too, but it'll be just a little bit. Um, and then if you don't have a lot of fat, salsa on a salad is really great. If you only have fats remaining at the end of the day, a lot of times we just tell people to leave those, but if you're logging before you eat, you'll get used to this. Just fail forward. You'll get used to doing the log before I eat, oh my goodness, my fats are really high. Make sure for dinner I add a tab of butter or I add some olive oil to my meal. I'll add a little extra sauce or something that has some fats in it. Or maybe I get in some nuts and seeds for some fats, put some seeds on my food. And another thing that's really helpful for protein, if you're making your dinner and you've already got it set up, you can also put nutritional yeast on top of it as well to give some more protein. Or you can drink a cup of milk or a cup of plant milk and get some extra protein in if you need that. Just remember, you can always do this with every single type of food out there. But if you do have just fats remaining, if you want to get those fats in and it's only fats, you've hit all your protein and all your carbs, you could have a cup of tea, put some MCT oil in it or some coconut oil in it, or, you know, that usually doesn't bother people. You can't really taste it at all. A lot of people put MCT oil in their coffee in the morning. So it's kind of the same thing. You just put it in tea at night if you're still having a bunch of fats. Or you can leave those fats that day and then look at your week as an average and maybe get a lot of eggs and protein in the morning, some higher fat proteins in the morning, and then just add those fats to the next morning if you don't want to eat them on that night. Hopefully, this was helpful.